evening. I am here to drop in for the fourth day of Panchakarma, and I have another collective download coming in that I wanted to share with the wider collective. And I'm really beginning to get the memo that when these readings are coming through, they really are for the collective consciousness. And whether you choose to partake in Panchakarma and take up this work to address what's coming forward in these readings is entirely your choice. I do want to extend that offering to you. It is available. You can look under the playlist that I've started for the Own Your Fire 40-day community Panchakarma. It is here on the home page of the channel. And if you don't feel ready for that, or you're just kind of curious what this is all about, I encourage you to explore. You know, it's all a matter of when it aligns with you, when it resonates with you, when it feels right for you, when you can start this process. And maybe you want to watch, just sort of eavesdrop a little bit, you know, get a window view into the process and what comes forward before you take it up as your own. And I encourage you to do that if that's what feels right to you. But I really wanted to put it out there that when I'm putting out these specific readings, the downloads that are coming through are really for the collective consciousness. So I'm going to start treating them as such. And just here to deliver the message that wants to come through. And today we are talking about something that often we don't talk about. We are going to be talking about death. Lady Death came in yesterday for me, and this is very common with a Panchakarma process because we deal with deaths. We deal with the dissolution of our attachments. We deal with the letting go, the release of the ties that bind, the cords that are draining our life force, that are connected to traumas, that are connected to old stories, that are connected to people who no longer have a place in our life. We deal with those necessary, respectful closures, the completing of the circle in a healing process when it's time to let go with grace and acceptance and be washed anew, mind, body, spirit, through this purification process of Panchakarma so we can step into the new cycle as that fool beginning the journey once again. 3:22 on the clock when I said that. So we're always moving in partnership with death, always in this process. It's part of the cycle of life. It's something that we can't deny, and yet it's something we have a lot of difficulty talking about. And we certainly have had this spirit of death very present for us over the past couple of years collectively. There's a lot of heaviness around that. And there have been people who have lost loved ones. There have been those who didn't really have a chance to fully grieve what was lost. And sometimes it's not always the loss of a loved one. Sometimes it's the loss of an identity. Sometimes it's the loss of a relationship. Sometimes it's the loss of a career. It's the death of a dream. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote Women Who Run with Wolves. If you have not read that, it is a brilliant, brilliant book. But she speaks of this concept of las grandes muertes, the big deaths, the big letting go. And I made this rosary a while ago. It's made with waruo seeds that were actually gifted to me by my dear friend Kali. And she got them in Peru from a shaman. And and I was very, very blessed to receive them. And I made this rosary with them. I used skull beads, and I found this Santa Muerte charm that I put on there, and it gives me a lot of comfort, and it's given me a lot of support when I've moved through these panchakarmas. And it's one of my medicine pieces that I wear when I'm giving panchakarma, when I'm doing that hands-on panchakarma work. And it comes in when I'm doing my own personal panchakarma work, and this self-care panchakarma that I'm extending to all of you and sharing with all of you. So I always get prepared to greet death, because I know that death will be there through this process, and the need to honor that, and to even give death her flowers. There's a grace in the respect for the process of death, the process of letting go. There's a sacredness in tears. There's an honor in grief. It's actually can be a beautiful, beautiful release, and a reverence for the cycle of life, for the circle of life, and how we're all interconnected in that flow of energy. Birth, life, death, rebirth, birth, life, death, rebirth, over and over and over again, in one shape or form, from this life to the next, from lives that have come before. And it was really wild, because I had this experience last night. I had shared, that Lady Death had come forward, and I went on a walk with Ted, and it just was a beautiful night. I was really enjoying the energy. I felt very safe. I felt very protected. The energy that was holding me on that moonlit walk was just so quiet and peaceful. And I went on quite a track with Ted. And I normally don't do that long of a walk at night, but it felt right. And we turned down a particular dark street that we enjoy walking down, and I was just enjoying the atmosphere. And all of a sudden I felt on my left side a hand tap me on my shoulder. And it was the strangest thing, because I didn't feel startled. I didn't feel afraid. And I turned around expecting to see somebody standing there. But instead, there was nobody there. And it reminded me of Journey to Ixtlan by Carlos Castaneda, when Carlos and Don Juan were discussing death as an ally. And so I actually wrote down the quotes from that book. I feel it's really pertinent, and it's what I'm going to be reading on for the collective. I think this is a big message that's coming through, and it will be a guide and a salve to the tender places as we move through this release process. And we're really going to dive into that in the next 10-day cycle. So as I discussed before, I'm here to kind of help you all move into that softening, where you can release, where you can let go, where you can grieve. We're doing this opening work, this dropping in, this getting in touch, this first 10-day cycle. But once we move into the next 10-day cycle, we're cracking open. We're cracking open. And we're going to be doing work that will be centered around trauma release, okay? So it's so essential in a process like that we get comfortable with greeting death, with finding the grace in death, finding the beauty in the letting go, in the surrender, in the release. So these are the quotes that came through from Journey to Ixtlan by Carlos Castaneda. Death is our eternal companion. It is always to our left, an arm's length behind us. Death is the only wise advisor that we have. Whenever you feel, as you always do, that everything is going wrong and you're about to be annihilated, turn to your death and ask if that is so. Your death will tell you that you're wrong, that nothing really matters outside its touch. Your death will tell you, I haven't touched you yet. In a world where death is the hunter, my friend, there is no time for regrets or doubts. There is only time for decisions. I thought that was so powerful. So powerful. And it's so fitting. It's so fitting because decisions involve a choice to take action. 11:08 on the clock when I said that. And Panchakarma is 5 actions of purification. And we're starting to open up to gain this knowledge of the science of life, how we can be supported in this process of purification. And the anthropomorphic carrot. Remember, we're pulling things out by the root, right? We got that sickle right there. Look, death has a sense of humor too, right? It's a little bit of a trickster energy. Little bit of trickster energy, because is there really death? It's all just energy, so the energy continues on, right? The energy evolves, it elevates, the frequency goes to a higher vibration, but does it cease to exist? It doesn't. It merges with that one great energy. We're all connected to the one great energy. But right now we're going to be doing this work of pulling out our attachments, our energetical attachments to that which binds us, to that which is the seat of our suffering, that manifests in our lives in destructive ways, in ways that limit us from reaching our full potential. We're cutting off that supply. We're cutting off the supply of using our energy to nourish what has held us back, what is the source of our suffering, and instead we're reaching for that golden carrot, that golden carrot of freedom that comes from releasing our attachment to suffering. People don't realize how they can become so attached to their suffering. It can be very familiar. And we talked about this need to step into the light, to honor your growth, to move into this place of willingness to be witnessed in receiving your flowers. And the process of Panchakarma, the end goal is to move into that place of total receptivity to what wants to pour into you, so it can pour forth from you into the world to nourish others. And in order to move into that space, we need to clear the channel. We need to clear the channel of all that blocks and impedes the flow of that energy, so that we can actually take in that nourishment that builds our ashay. Your ashay is like your spiritual essence. It's what makes you uniquely you. We all have an ashay. It's a Yoruba concept. Ashay are your gifts that you're meant to bring forward into the world. They're the flowers you offer the world. And so it's really about getting that energy cleared, allowing that energy to be released, cutting that cord of attachment. So you can allow your Ashe to come forward and all the blessings that pour into you and flow through you as a result of having the courage to do that. You know, there's this need to untether yourself from all that is not you, you know, other people's energy that you've taken on, these psychic wounds that you're still nurturing because it's comfortable, right? It's comfortable. You know this, it's familiar. It can be very frightening to move beyond the suffering because then it means taking responsibility for your joy. It's something that a lot of people don't understand, but if you have spent your life dragging a lot of trauma behind you, you learn a certain predictability in how you move through the world that creates a false sense of security and safety. But it's really, it's an illusion. And there is no safety in that. There is no security in that. It can be very destabilizing initially to release your need to suffer, because it means you have to move into this flow of spontaneity. To step out of the suffering is to move into the unknown. It's something completely unfamiliar to you. And I'm really speaking right now to those who have history of childhood trauma. It's deep. It's deep. So it's so essential to not be afraid of speaking of these things. It's so essential that we can bring these things that we normally sweep under the rug. You know, we don't talk about these things, but it's so important that we allow them to find expression, that we bring them into the light. It's so interesting. Yeah, look at this. Former child star. This is the arcane bullshit deck. I love this deck. It's like, it is time to take all of those expectations that were put on you when you were a child, all the things they told you you were. Maybe you had an emotionally abusive upbringing. Maybe you were told that you'll never amount to anything, that you didn't have anything to offer this world. And you kind of lost your identity along the way. You lost your connection to who you really are. And it's really time to like light a match and burn that shit away, clear it away. And it's so interesting because with Panchakarma, that's what we're doing. We're building to a liquid fire state. That's why we get the lymphatic system moving, the rasa, the river of life. We're building this heat in the body. It's this purifying heat. We bring in different healing modalities to support that process of purification. Physically, you will be heating up and releasing it and sweating it out and exhaling it out, moving it out of your tissues. You know, that is what we're doing. We're blazing a trail. We're burning those bridges, right? And we're blazing a trail ahead. And it's through activating that pitta, you know, really getting the pitta fired up as we get the kapha, that water essence really flowing, that river of life. We got this river of fire, you know, just moving through us, purifying us. And it's going to help clear that trauma out of the tissues. You don't need to stay attached to that story. You can burn that story up. In fact, I encourage you to let your trauma write its last wishes, Let it write a letter. Let your trauma know. Death is coming. It's coming. 2020 on the clock when I said that. Witness it. And I encourage you to do a ritual around this. Give your trauma a voice. Write out a letter and offer it up to the fire. And do some talk afterwards. Light a candle. Offer it up to the fire. Make sure you have a fire-safe container, like a cauldron or even a fire pit, somewhere that you can safely allow the letter to burn. And as it does, stare into the flame. Do some talk, some meditative release work. You can even combine it with, that Kali breath, the inhale and, expelling the energy from your body. I encourage you to do this release ritual to start preparing yourself for your willingness to release the trauma. I also see this as twofold, You got the coffin full of tacos, full of snakes, all right? And look at that, we got that moon energy. We have the new moon coming up, Saturday in the wee hours, all right? And it's gonna be a spicy moon. Snakes are all about transformation. You hear so much nonsense about snake energy out there in tarot land. Snake medicine is potent medicine. Let's not forget that the caduceus, the symbol of healing, has snakes on it. The kundalini energy is represented as the serpent energy, okay? Snakes are about transformation. They are about shedding skins. They are about releasing what no longer serves us. They are about imbibing a bit of the poison to arrive at the cure. They're about healing. And it's a very empowering medicine. So don't take in the vilified association with snake medicine. It's very powerfully transformative, right? So we know that we're going to be transforming this energy. We're going to be transforming those traumas. And what do we talk about? We talked about the need to clear out that ama, that which is undigested, okay? So it's going to be a lot about clearing out this undigested emotional material that's been stuck in the energy body. Actually shedding the grief. I almost said leech. So I feel like some of you may have like this kind of parasitic energy that you need to clear from your energy body. And we'll get into that. We're going to dive into that next week. We're really going to get into how do you pull out from the root these energetic attachments? How do you do extraction work? I'm going to walk you through it. I'll help support you through that. So there's going to be a lot of this work going on, but also I see here tacos, okay? There's no separation between the physical, what's going on emotionally, what's going on spiritually. So naturally, if you need to be able to digest your experiences, you're going to want to make sure your digestion is really humming along. And that is another area where we really get the purification going. And so I encourage you right now, look at what's going on with your diet. What are you eating? Are you eating a lot of junk food? Are you eating a lot of late night snacks? Your body needs the opportunity to really clear away the need to digest food late at night, because all of your organs go into a detoxification process. And if they have to divert the energy to digesting your food, you're not going to feel so hot. That's why you wake up in the morning and you got a food hangover. Okay, so start looking at that. How are you eating? How are you nourishing yourself? How is your digestion doing? If you get bloated after you eat, if you're burping, if you got gas, if you have any kind of acid reflux, anything like this going on, you know that you have digestive deficiency. You have low agni, low digestive fire. You're going to need to stoke that fire. So first begin by, eating closer to the earth. Be mindful of how you're nourishing yourself right now. I love this. Cut of the deck energy. I pulled up 2 cards. So we have annihilation, okay? And remember what I talked about with this unfolding process, this cracking open. Right now we're greeting this annihilation, this release, this death process, this letting go by moving more into the tenderness, all right? And I also see this as like death coming forward to say, there's nothing to fear. I'm an ally. I'm an ally. I'm here to set you free of this energy. So don't be afraid to look at the deaths, and don't be afraid to look at what you need to let die in your life, what habits you need to let go of, what behaviors, what beliefs, what sabotaging patterns you have that are time to lay to rest. So important. What grieving processes do you still need to complete? And maybe creating some kind of ritual around that speaks to you personally, and speaks to you within your spiritual tradition, that feels comfortable for you. This is so important. Remember your ancestry. We brought that piece in because we're really going to be doing this clearing work. Man pouring water on an eyeball. This is all about washing the vision clear, ajna, so you can see with great clarity. So you can activate that vision, because if you have so much stuff in your consciousness, all these old stories locked in your consciousness, then you keep going over the same old ground. If you deal with any level of PTSD, those trauma loops that you're going over and over in your head that keep you stuck, that keep you psychically stuck in that time and place of your original wounding, you have no freedom, right? So it's about being willing to really hold space for this, being willing to hold it with love and with awareness and with sensitivity, and trusting in the process of death and trusting in this process of letting go. It brings such a beautiful, sweet release, because we're about to let the anger come forward. We got this king shit energy, all right? It's about flushing it all out. And let me tell you, we are going to flush it out. Quite literally. I mean, we are going to get it moving. You're going to let go of that old shit. Not just, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You're going to let it go physically. And you're going to see the way that it's all interconnected, right? We're remembering our sovereignty. And look, there's that I. This is about remembering our sovereignty, so you can really see who you are beyond all of these projections, all of these wounds, all of this bullshit that's been put on you. It's time to give a finger to all of that. And I encourage you, get in touch with your anger. Let it start to come forward this week. This is the death of having to put on the happy face and everything's fine. And, don't ever raise any kind of dissent. Keep the peace. There is a way that you can hold these feelings, these emotions with respect that doesn't cause destruction. And it's so important that you get in touch with these feelings, because if you keep them inside of you, you harm yourself. And if you harm yourself, then you harm the greater whole. It's all one energy. It's so important you free yourself from this, not only for your own happiness and moving forward in your life, not only for your own clarity, not only so you can truly see who you are beyond all this bullshit that you inherited, but so you can be part of the solution and helping everybody elevate beyond it. And that's how we pay it forward. Get ready to let go.